Hi, so this is Analyzing Transactions video 2. So in this video, we're going to focus on analyzing on account transactions. So we're going to start on page 39 in the accounting textbook, Southwest edition number 10, and we're going to analyze a on account transaction. So the transaction reads, bought supplies on account from Canyon Office Supply, $220. January 5th. Bought supplies on account from Canyon Office Supplies, $220. So this is page 39. I write the page number here just for our reference. I don't typically have my students write the page number here, but you can if you want to. It can help them reference how to do the problems. I encourage them to write page numbers in their notebook when I'm explaining things because it helps them when they're studying. They can reference back. Where does she reference in the textbook when we're learning these concepts? It's good for note keeping. It's good to help them study. It's important to teach them as many strategies as possible during the lesson. So it is January the 2nd. Oh, I'm sorry, January the 5th. And if you make a mistake like I just did with your students, don't try to act like you never make mistakes. We all make mistakes. It's important for students to know you can recover from a mistake. We can learn from our mistakes. First of all, the biggest lessons we learn in life are from mistakes. So it's okay to make a mistake. Correct it, move on. It's not like a big deal. Okay? So it's January 5th is the date. So I'm on page 39 in the textbook. Once again, have the transaction read multiple times to encourage them to read the transaction multiple times in order to break it down. So it's bought supplies on account from Canyon Office Supply. So if we bought on account, that is the key from the on account lesson. We bought on account. What account is affected? And the answer is accounts payable. We bought on account. Bought on account, so that is accounts payable. And what do we buy on account? We bought supplies on account. We bought supplies on account. So what other account is affected? Supplies. Remember, there are always two accounts affected in every transaction. Always two. Can be more than two, but not less than two. So in this transaction, accounts payable and supplies are our two accounts affected. So now we move to the accounting equation. Where does accounts payable fall in the accounting equation? Accounts payable is a liability. So we put L for liability. Liability. Where the supplies fall into the accounting equation? Supplies is an asset. We can always reference our chart of accounts, which is on page 3 in the textbook. Always encourage your students to locate the chart of accounts in the problem or use the chart of accounts on page 3. Most of the time in Applia, which is our workbook, a digital workbook we use, the chart of account is labeled COA. COA for chart of accounts. So we have the accounts names, the account equation. Now we need the normal balance. What is the normal balance of liability? That is a credit. What is the normal balance of assets? That is a debit. Liability, credit, asset, debit, normal balance. So now we need to know what is the increase or decrease of the accounts. Do we have more or less of the account based on the transaction? So the transaction is bought supplies on account from Canyon Office Supply, $220. If I bought supplies on account, do I have more or less accounts payable? Meaning, do I have more or less liability? Meaning, do I owe more or less based on this transaction? And the answer is more. I owe more. I have more accounts payable. I have more liability. So that is a plus. bought supplies on account from Canyon Office Supply. Do I have more or less supplies? Do I have more or less supplies? Supplies. I bought supplies, so I have more supplies. So that is also a plus. When it's a plus, we do the same as the normal balance. So in the change column, we write the same. So it's a plus here, credit, plus here, debit. So what is our journal entry? Which account do we debit? Debits come first. Remember, we're stressing that. Debits come first. So which account do we debit? We look here, go over here, and it's supplies. We debit supplies, and then we credit accounts payable. I do AP for the abbreviation for accounts payable. So the journal entry for bought supplies on account is debit supplies, credit accounts payable. That is this first transaction. So if you go over to page 40, we have paid cash on account to Canyon Office Supplies. We paid cash on account to Canyon Office Supplies. So basically what's happening in this transaction is we're paying this bill. So on January 9th, on page 40, we have the transaction paid cash on account to Canyon Supplies, $100. We paid cash on account. So two accounts that are affected. We paid cash, so cash is affected. We paid cash on account. So if we paid on an account, that means that we owed. If we owe, that means we had a liability. That means it is accounts payable. So cash and accounts payable are the two accounts affected. For the problem on page 40, January the 9th, we paid cash on account to Canyon Office Supplies. Paid cash on account to Canyon Office Supplies. So where does cash fall in the accounting equation? It is an asset. Where does accounts payable fall in the accounting equation? It is a liability. What is the normal balance of assets? It is debit. What is the normal balance of liability? It is credit. Based on this transaction, do I have more or less cash? If I paid cash, that means I have less cash because my cash went out to pay this bill. So that is a minus. Paid cash on account. If I paid on this account, that means my debt is going down. So I have less accounts payable because I'm paying my bill. So whatever is here, if it's plus, we do the same. If it's minus, we do the opposite. So this is a minus. So for debit, we change this to credit. For credit, we change this to debit. So what account do we debit? We debit accounts payable based off this. What account do we debit? We look here, we debit accounts payable. What do we credit? We credit, we look here, we credit cash. And that is how you analyze those two transactions. Thank you.